Fueling the passion, igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar, together we roar. The Detroit Lions will rise, with a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices, let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
All right. Hey, good morning. Welcome to the Rise and Grind Morning Show. It is Thursday, 8:08 a.m., October 10th. All that much closer to the showdown in they're not even in Dallas. They're in Arlington, right? So it's Cowboys and Lions on Sunday afternoon at 4:25 p.m. We're going to talk a little bit about that today and a few matchups. So I found some key information in all of these stats galore that you can get your hands on. And I want to talk about a few of them today. We're going to highlight CeeDee Lamb versus Jameson Williams. We're going to highlight this Detroit Lions defense versus Dak Prescott in the running game for the Dallas Cowboys. And can our passing defense actually step up? Because they're going to need to. And there's some injuries for the Cowboys. So we'll be discussing Micah Parsons, Tyler Guyton, Deron Bland, and a few other players for the Cowboys that may not be able to suit up this weekend, or they might. And some top matchups and some key stats. We're going to get into all that and more this morning. Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Eric. How are you doing today?
Good morning. What a cold, crisp morning it was this morning. Frost all over my truck. Had to warm my truck up before I went to the hospital this morning. So it's getting there. It's really, really chilling off. But you know what? The wind is supposed to come out of the south today. It's going to make all the waves go away. And we're supposed to have one of the most amazing Northern Light shows in a very long time tonight. You're supposed to be able to see the Northern Lights all the way down into Detroit today. So that's where I'm headed this morning, is down to Detroit. So hopefully I can see them from my Airbnb right in Detroit. It'd be awesome.
That'll be cool, man. I haven't seen the Northern Lights in a long time. So I had a small procedure yesterday. Hopefully I'll be able to hear better. It does sound a little bit better, but for some reason, it's affected my nose. So I had a little bit of an issue this morning. So I apologize for being a little bit late, but I got sick of not being able to hear. So I went in yesterday and said, look, I don't care what you got to do. Just do it. And apparently they did it. I never felt what they did. And it sounds better. I don't hear the bee buzzing in my ear anymore. So that's good. And maybe I'll actually hear the decibel level at Ford Field, because I still have never really heard it. And I don't know why. I mean, so people always say I'm yelling at them, like they feel like I'm yelling at them, and I'm like, I'm really not trying to. I'm not that big of a dick, but I guess if you can't hear, you really talk too loud. So I don't know. The joy of podcasting, I guess, having these earmuffs on, which I've got to change. I've got to get to something different. But even a slight pressure on your eardrum can change everything. So you learn a lot while doing this. But so let's get into some key stats. So Eric, top of your mind this morning, Lions news and rumors. Is there anything flying around for you today?
Not really. There were some like what do you call it? Fake trade rumors going around. Like the Lions going after some guy for the Browns and some guy for the Giants and this guy and that guy. It's all a bunch of hullabaloo. No trades are going to happen. Nothing.
Well, there was one.
The guy from the Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to that one.
Well, no, he has agreed to sign with the Lions. So according to Danny Webster, Jeff Schwartz from the Bleacher Report says that Jeff Schwartz reportedly agreed to sign with the Detroit Lions. Now, Jeff Schwartz spent the last two seasons with the New York Giants, but since being released, he has decided to start the next chapter of his career with the Detroit Lions. Dave Burkett of the Detroit Free Press reported the news of Swartz signing, noting that the lineman, who is recovering from a broken leg, no less, is a good swing lineman at a minimum. So obviously the Lions are looking for some depth right now. Mahogany's back. He's practicing at least, but they're not going to settle. They want to make sure that this offensive line can stay intact, because we're going to suffer injuries. I mean, it's just part of the game. And I feel like, grabbing some guys up that have some experience is probably the better way to go. And it looks like that's what the Lions are doing. So the Jeff Swartz only played in 13 games in the last 2 seasons for the Giants. And part of that is because he's getting a little bit older, as he told Christine Skopek of the Cheat Sheet. Quote, "When you are young and banged up, you can bounce back from it so much faster." He's now 29, and he says, "I remember I had sprained ankles in football and doctors saying you need to take off X amount of time, and I'd just play anyways." So obviously he has that fire within him, or at least he did when he was a little bit younger. But you know who else has that fire in him? How about them Tigers from yesterday?
Oh, man. That was nuts.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about that Giants, about Jeff Swartz. I was talking about the Ojulari.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have a lot of the clickbait stuff going on, people trying to find content to talk about. They just,
man. And it seems like ESPN and Bleacher Report and all these other ones are putting out these fake trade rumors, and it's by writers I've never heard of before.
well, I mean, let's be honest here. If you can't come up with any sort of content, if you can't talk about anything out of the box, what's your next best option?
Yeah, you gotta make something up.
You got to create something, right? And if you create a narrative that the Lions are a good landing spot for this person, or, and that's actually not a bad video. The Lions are a good landing spot for this individual, or they're a good match, but explaining why, what makes them a good fit. That's one thing, but saying that they're predicted to land this guy, or, the Lions should or will land this guy, that's totally different. And we hear it every year. I mean, I don't think that we're numb to the fact that the Detroit Lions fans, for whatever reason, the minute anybody gets cut or waived or what, they're going to be a Detroit Lion tomorrow. We are playing Madden every day, apparently, with the Detroit. It's just not realistic. You've got to be realistic with this stuff. That's why we haven't seen any of these players come to Detroit yet, because it's not realistic. But to each their own, man. Some people, that's just what they thrive on. That's what they love to create, is these narratives that get the pandemonium flowing, I guess. I don't know. But even the Detroit Free Press, they put out some free agency rumor trackers with some latest updates and analysis. I'm curious to see what Marlo Alter wrote. I have no idea who this dude is, but he looks like he's about 12. The Detroit Lions have been busy, according to this article, to start 2024 free agency. This is a long time ago. This is March 10th, but it's at the top of the news cycle. That makes no sense. So we'll move on from that. I'm not gonna go down the rumor mill today.
Yeah.
We'll stay away from it. Rumor Mill is a channel I started too. I've got the NFL Rumor Mill, but I never really did anything with it. So I wanted to talk about CeeDee Lamb. Obviously, the Detroit Lions, have some injuries, or had some injuries, and they're one of the healthiest now coming out of the bye, as healthy as they can be. Right? We're still missing Davenport. We're still missing Barnes. We still have some pretty big injuries that these guys need to work their way back, and they probably won't this year. We probably won't see Barnes back. We probably won't see Davenport back. May or may not see Kaminsky back. And how do you prepare for that? As a Lions team, how do you prepare? I think they did it the right way. At the very beginning of roster breakdown, or roster cut down to 53, I'd felt that the Lions were going to get really deep in the defensive line, and they did. They kept as many players as they could. They kind of played that little roster gymnastics going down to 52. And that was because the Broderick Martin, the John Kaminskis, and the things of that nature that they had to figure out. With the new rule this year, you could only keep 2 prior to cut down, designated to return. You had to keep at least one guy, you wanted to come back, you had to keep him on the roster for 24 hours. So that was the game that they were trying to play. And I don't think a lot of us understood that or recognized it right at the outset of 53-man cut down, but it made a lot more sense after the fact, when you look at what the Lions are trying to do. So they got really deep in the defensive line. And I don't know how you feel, Eric, but I feel like this is probably one of the deeper rosters we've seen, and probably one of the best rosters we've seen in 30 years, to be honest with you. It may be longer. But it is an extremely deep set of defensive linemen. There's a couple linebackers that, don't have any experience, but they played pretty well in the preseason. So what do you think about this Lions roster right now? Do you feel like we are deep enough to continue playing the way that we're playing and to continue with the roster that we have, just move some guys up? Or do you feel it's going to take a major move before the trade deadline?
Yes, I feel we're good enough. I don't think we're going to do any trades. I don't think you're going to see any trade whatsoever. I just don't. I don't see it until Brad does something different. It's you got to prove it to me kind of thing. I just don't see it happening. He never does. So why would he change the way he does things now versus before? We're in a Super Bowl window. Yeah, but I think he's trying to build it his way, not somebody else's way. Just because other teams do it that way doesn't mean that the Lions are going to do it that way. And man, is it nice to have a practice report like the one we got for yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
Full practice, full practice, full practice. No one questionable. Everyone's playing. So as far as the injury report goes, looks like Frank Ragnow's going to play. Looks like Brian Branch is going to play. Kirby Joseph is going to play. Everybody was looking good. So I don't think we have anything to worry about injury wise. The only guys we have injured are all of our 18,000 players that are on the IR, on injured reserve. For a while.
So the Lions did something a little bit different this week, and call it the hangover, or during the bye week, sometimes you get it. The players that were playing hot, like, I love the fact that we had the bye week where we did, because we needed to get healthy, especially for Frank. But then you got to look at the other side of it. We're playing hot. We just had our best game of the season, and now you sit down for a week.
Mm-hmm.
What's going to happen? Are you going to stumble out of the gate, come week 6 against the Cowboys? Or are you going to be able to continue on? The ether was really high. Are you going to be able to match that intensity that you were just at, in week 4? And I hope so. But Dan Campbell did something a little bit different coming out of the bye than I think he's done in seasons past. Normally, the Lions had Tuesday off every week, right? And then you have to get a practice in by Wednesday to make sure that you get your practice report in by Wednesday, your first one of the week. They had they held a full practice on Tuesday. And then followed that up on Wednesday with just a walkthrough. Now, they're saying because the Lions play on Sunday, right, they're required to produce their first injury report of the week by Wednesdays. Makes sense. That's what all teams have to do. But with it only being a walkthrough, all player participation levels are estimates based on what the coaches believe the player would have been able to do if the Lions had a full practice. So I'm just going to throw a little caution, but I don't think there's anything to it. I'll drive a rumor for a minute, I guess. If they only did a walkthrough on Wednesday, but yet everyone is shouldn't everybody be a full participant in a walkthrough? Mm-hmm. You would think, right? So if they didn't go through a full practice, now what are you feeling? Do you think that there's any sort of a let off here come Friday? Or do you think that the Lions are going to stay healthy? So you guys let us know in the chat, and of course in the comments, did Dan Campbell do this intentionally, one, to kind of get guys going again a little bit early? That would be question 1. Question 2 would be, are you concerned that because the Lions only went through a walkthrough on Wednesday, that our practice report is a little artificial? If you kind of catch what I'm saying here, it's not very accurate. Here's what Dan Campbell. What's that?
There's been a couple of weeks where it's kind of like that, where it's an artificial practice report for a day or so.
Well, we've never done it this way. So this is totally backwards, right?
Oh, okay.
We practiced on Tuesday and not Wednesday.
Yeah.
Whereas before we had Tuesday off, then practice on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So we didn't practice at all. Wednesday was just a walkthrough. So here's what Dan Campbell said. He said, you get a day to prime your players back up off of a lot of days off. So you've primed them up, and then the next day you're ready to give them the install. So Wednesday they started doing the install for the Cowboys, or get them ready for the opponent. And so you've got 2 days of good work. And one of those practices, like yesterday, was a padded day for us. So they were in pads on Tuesday. And it was a longer practice. Pads, we get real good looks, and then you get a day off. So I just think it helps their recovery. It's better quality of work. It's more efficient. I got to hand it to Dan Campbell, because he doesn't follow the norms, right? I mean, if you get your players into a rut, you're doing the same thing over and over. Each week it's the same thing. And then Dan Campbell comes in off the bye week and says, nope, here's a curveball. Get up, get your pads on. We're going to go have a full practice today. Where maybe everyone was planning on going through a walkthrough on Tuesday. Or I'm sorry, having the day off on Tuesday. And I love that about him, that he does things differently. He's trying to, not allow his players to get too comfortable. Right? They have to be comfortable at being uncomfortable. So I think it was a great move. But I guess I'll still throw the question out there. Are you a little concerned that maybe the Wednesday practice report is a little artificial because it was more of a walkthrough after a padded practice in reverse order? They didn't have a day off on Tuesday, and then they practiced instead. So we'll see what happens for Friday. So Friday's going to be the big report that kind of gives us the idea of where they're headed. And with that, we'll talk about the Dallas Cowboys here in just a moment. But the injured reserve non-football injury list, you still have Christian Mahogany, who has been activated. His NFI return, or his evaluation clock started. He has 19 days remaining. Broderick Martin can return at any time. We spoke about this the other day. His clock is supposed to start soon, but keep in mind that he may not need a full clock. So he may get started. He may be ready to go same week. Was what I was understanding. And then John Kaminsky, even though he's eligible to return at any time, not going to happen anytime soon. We already know about Davenport and Barnes. They're done. Mosley, highly unlikely he'll be back this season. And then Melifonwu, he is eligible to return after week 9 or in week 9. Not sure that he's going to be able to. The concern that I have on Melifonwu, so we really haven't talked about this or spoken to this at all. The Achilles tendonitis. So it's something that I spoke about very early on into the injury issue. Nobody was really reporting this. I was talking about it probably 3-4 weeks before anybody else really caught wind of this, but he had this tendonitis in the Achilles. It's the same style of injury that or issue that Christian McCaffrey's dealing with. So it's not like it's, just something that you can work through and it's going to get better and you're going to be able to play. This is now going to follow him the rest of his life. And that's why I said sometimes it's almost better just to have an Achilles rupture or a tear and you get it fixed and you don't have all the tendinopathy, the tendonitis to go with it. You may develop it over time, but this is going to follow him now. So there may be a good possibility Lions could move on from Melifonwu if they feel like this is going to hamper his ability to play in a large majority of games every season. I mean, he's already missed 4 this year, and he's missed plenty more before this. So I'm not so sure on Melifonwu coming back next season, I guess is where I'm going. And it kind of sucks. I mean, it really does suck because he's been playing pretty well. And he's been a big part of this Lions team now for a while. So, when you see this type of stuff, man, it just kind of hurts as a fan because you're like, what does the guy got to do? Like he's worked his ass off and there's nothing he can do about this, but be patient and hope that it gets better. So any questions, comments on that, Eric?
Just that we're looking pretty good, really. Seriously, for being week 6 now in the NFL. I'm going to say that most teams in the NFL would take our injury list over theirs right now. We're faring pretty well. And one interesting stat that I just looked up, the Lions are 1-1-1 coming out of the bye under Dan Campbell.
So what you're saying is it's a crapshoot.
Yeah. So we've had a win, a loss, and a tie coming out of the bye. So if we win this week, we can give Dan the winning record out of the bye.
Well,
and a winning record. Well,
and a winning record.
He's got a winning record. Okay. Well, we can put him one game above.
Well, I think he's 27-1 if my memory serves me correct.
Yeah. I think this would put him over the top. He'd have one game winning record.
All right, so we've got about 70 people in the house with us this morning. We've got about 24 likes. Let's push that thing up to 50. We'll get these ads turned off. I don't think you've had any ads yet, but we'll make sure we get it turned off as soon as we get above 50. Appreciate you guys joining us this morning. You guys are the best part of waking up, truly. The best part of this channel. All the sponsors, all the members, all the supporters, whether it's Rock Down Detroit Lions or Rock Down Cancer Foundation, you guys are awesome. I wouldn't be doing this each and every day without you. I do it for free. I mean, I do. It's not like this is a moneymaker for me. I do it out of the kindness of my heart. Loyal Lions member, 25 plus years. And that's what started all this is I needed to rehab myself because of my cancer diagnosis. And it just kind of turned into something. And I thank you guys each and every day for allowing me this platform to have an opportunity to talk about the Lions and actually have some people that actually listen. So, and get engaged. It's really, really fun. So I appreciate you guys. Let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys here for just a moment. And there was a question or statement in the chat a while ago by Mateo. I thought I caught it. Was asking about Devin White. So I don't know if he heard me talking about Devin White the other day. Devin White, I've been talking about him for a couple of weeks. He is someone that I thought would be a good opportunity for the Lions because, yesterday we solidified the fact that he has kind of played all over the place in the linebacker room, inside, outside, and middle. He's got great experience. I did reach out to somebody yesterday and I asked them, because Eric brought it up, about the culture. And the answer that I got back is they weren't so sure on his culture fit. Can we take a risk on one player? Sure. I don't know if we already have a player that's on this team that we're taking a risk on. I don't know that we do. I don't know that I could point at somebody and say, yeah, maybe they're a little bit questionable in what they do. I think that we have a very good roster, full of a bunch of good dudes. So you could take one risk. I think Dan Campbell mentioned that 2 years ago at the Combine, that you can definitely take one, taking two, maybe pressing it a little bit. But at the same time, we were younger back then. We didn't have a room full of vets that we have now. So you might be able to get away with a couple of guys now that maybe walk the border a little bit too far left, if you will, or too far right. I don't want to be political about it, so I better just say left and right. I think you get what I'm saying. And I don't know anything about Devin White outside of his stats and watching tape and what he does on the field. I don't know anything about him off the field, and I can't say that I found anything that speaks to negativity, off the field or in the locker room. So I think he's a good fit, right? Well, just like I said earlier, I think he's a good fit, but I'm not going to say he's on his way to Detroit. I'm not going to say that Brad Holmes is on the phone. I'm not going to say any of that stuff that other people say because I don't know. Nobody would ever know unless you're in the room with Brad Holmes. So, which nobody is. So when you hear that stuff, it's kind of like, what? Huh? Anyway, let's get on to Dallas Cowboys. What'd you have to say, Eric? I'm sorry.
Well, it's just like bugs. We shipped them out of town because when you have a bushel of apples and you have one apple that has a bad spot on it, you throw it in with the rest of the apples. What happens to every apple that touches that one with the bad spot on it? They all start getting bad spots. It infects your locker room when you have someone that just doesn't fit and doesn't have the right mentality. And that's why we ship Bugs out of town. And he went off and got his Super Bowl ring with the Chiefs. And now he's not playing for anybody. And now you see what kind of person Bugs was. He's gotten in quite a bit of trouble since he left the Detroit Lions.
He sure did, man. Like totally blindsided. I mean, the thing with the dog and his wife or girlfriend, geez, man. And it was just piling up on the dude. Like, totally unexpected. Anyway, just a quick shout out to people in the chat. Appreciate your compliments. I thank you guys again. It doesn't go unnoticed. Even though I don't comment on everything in the chat, I do see a lot of it, but just to keep the show flowing, I don't always stop, and I probably should more often. I probably should stop and recognize more people because you guys are awesome. Flex Your Mind, that's a new name, or at least one I haven't seen before. Says best roster we've had in my lifetime. I would agree with that. Yeah, Mr. Morale.
CJGJ was also a big risk that we took.
Yeah, Mr. Morale Tarantino was saying that too. Big risk, high reward.
Yeah. And see how that worked out.
Yeah, I mean he went back to Philly and didn't do anything. So J Mommy says Houston is taking up a roster spot, and there was another one in there. I thought it was from Peter talking about potentially Sorsdahl and someone else would be off of this team once Mahogany is activated. I don't know. I don't know that they would do that right away.
But listen, Will, what do we do with Houston? Seriously, we invested a 6th round pick in the guy, and then we released him, re-signed him, and we know he has the potential to get 8 sacks in 7 games. We know he has the potential, but then he got hurt. Can he come back? Can he not come back? Do we trade him? Do we release him? What do we do with the guy?
You want my opinion?
Yeah, if you were the GM of the Detroit Lions today and you had to make a decision about James Houston, what do we do?
Well, looking at this schedule, I would say if I needed to figure out what this player has, I've got to give him playing time. But looking at the schedule, I'm saying to myself, where am I going to give him playing time that I feel most comfortable? What team can I take a risk on if I felt that James Houston was a risk? He's got to get playing time. Yep. That's the whole thing right now. I think the reason why he's not having success right now is because he's not getting in the game. I think AG has something up his butt about Houston. I really do, and I don't know that, so I'm speculating. I'm just throwing it out there for conversation. I think AG has something about James Houston that he doesn't like. Maybe James Houston said something. Maybe James Houston acts a certain way. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe it's just cause and effect. He got injured. Someone stepped up. You've kind of sunk down the depth chart now. And the time that you do get in, you're not very productive. But I think that we would do a disservice to James Houston if we, evaluated him based on the limited amount of snaps that he's had since he's been back. I think that's a huge disservice. I can't definitively, if Jared Goff got hurt, right? Knock on wood. Let's just say your star quarterback gets hurt and they're just playing lights out, for 7 games. And then they get injured and they take a year off. Are you going to then just sprinkle them in every so often and just think that maybe they're not going to be the player they once were, and then they go in and they crap the bed because they haven't played in a year, and then you just bench them and you put in the other guy that was behind him? I mean, that realistically could happen, but wouldn't you be doing a disservice to your quarterback by not giving them some time?
Yeah.
And I know the situation's different, right? Because James Houston's not a star. But I'm going to tell you what, you tell me another player that comes in as a 6th round pick and goes and crashes 8 sacks in 7 games. I mean, his efficiency was incredibly hot. So I've never seen a player do that before. Matter of fact, I don't think it was done because he smashed a bunch of records.
Yeah. His very first game, he got 2 sacks in 4 plays.
Yeah. Against Josh Allen.
Yep. In the Bills.
Yeah.
A mobile quarterback.
I was there. Thanksgiving, I believe.
Yeah.
So I think we would be doing a big disservice by not giving him some time. Nobody is going to take him off our hands. He is not worth a 6th round pick right now because of the fact that he hasn't reproven himself since he's been back. Now, you may find someone that will overpay for him. By overpay, I'm talking 6th round pick. I feel like right now they need to get him some time. He would have really benefited off of playing a bunch more in preseason. And I mean, playing a lot in preseason. I can't remember. Was he injured? He was still injured in preseason, wasn't he?
So he had a knee. Yeah.
Yeah, he had something going on. So it doesn't help that, he was hurt, then banged up again, and then banged up again, and couldn't get any time. It also sucks that you're holding on to a roster spot for the guy because he has so much ability. He has it. I think the dude's great. I really do. I think that he could really help out, the rest of this defense with his speed and agility off the edge. He's just not working out as a linebacker, and AG was trying to fit him into that box. They did the same thing to Matthew Betts. They tried to fit him into a box that he doesn't belong in. Quit trying to change people. Just let them do what they do. I mean, another team is going to end up getting him, and they're going to let him do what he does, and I guarantee you, he has a comeback, a major comeback. And we're all going to be looking at each other like, told you.
Yeah.
So I'll leave it as that. I see this chat's probably lighting up. I don't think a lot of people are real big on James Houston.
Well, and one thing in here, Tarantino also said that why don't we send him back down to the practice squad? Well, to do that, you have to cut him. He has to clear waivers through all the other teams. And then you have to agree to a contract with him for the practice squad. I don't know if that would happen or not. That's a lot of hoops you'd have to jump through. You can't just send somebody down and then back up. That's just not the way it works.
I'm sorry, say that again.
The practice squad, because he was saying, why don't we send James Houston back down to the practice squad?
Well, we can. We absolutely can, but he'll get poached.
Yeah, that's what I mean. You could try, but it's not going to happen. Somebody's going to take him because he's got to clear waivers.
He'll get poached for sure. And I haven't heard this, Mike P, about Houston's lack of, I guess I would call it, energy in practice. Like if he's not practicing like he wants to play. So I haven't heard that. I have no clue if that's a fact. When I was at training camp, I can't say that I saw that, but then again, you're not right there next to these guys. I mean, the guys that should have been reporting on this didn't. I didn't hear anything from these insiders or the beat writers about James Houston. Like he was a forgotten about player. Nobody wrote anything really about him. Yeah. And I'd have to go back and do a search to see if there's even anything there during training camp, but I can't remember any. We kept asking, every day, like, what's going on with James Houston? Outside of an injury, what's going on?
He was hurt.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens. But I will guarantee you guys all this. If James Houston hits free agency next year, he's gone. Or if he's cut, let go, put to a practice squad, he's gone. He will not be back. I guarantee it. He's going to have a bone to pick with the Lions for not giving him any PT. And I probably would too, because I think the dude's got some freakish athletic ability, and we don't know post-injury just how much, he's retained. So there's that fact too that we just don't know. But now that I'm way off my rocker this morning on James Houston, let's talk a little bit about, I'm just going to have to do these videos later. So let's talk a little bit about JMO and CeeDee Lamb here. So I've got a question for you guys in the chat. Let me pull it up. But Eric, you've been a JMO supporter forever.
Yes.
Okay.
Way before his breakout. Yep.
So here's the question. Will JMO have a better game than CeeDee Lamb?
All right.
That's the question.
You want me to answer that question?
I want you to answer that question.
All right. Here we go. So far this year, Jamison Williams has 13 receptions. CeeDee Lamb has one more game, but he has 25 receptions. He's the number one, the clear number one. JMO's the clear number two right now. JMO in 4 games has 289 yards. CeeDee Lamb has 378. JMO has 2 touchdowns. CeeDee Lamb has 2 touchdowns.
Just do me a favor. I just want you to answer the question. We're just give us your answer.
Right.
And then if you want to support it with stats, you can.
So JMO's averaging 22.2. CeeDee Lamb's 15.1. So I'm going to go with the averages, and I'm going to say that JMO is going to have a slightly better game.
All right.
And CeeDee Lamb has not had a 100-yard game yet this season.
Jameson makes the catch. Jameson makes the catch.
All right.
So I'm gonna go barely with JMO.
All right. I like where your head's at. And I'm glad that you're starting to support it with some stats, because a lot of people put out these takes and then they don't support it.
Yep.
Now let's review some of his stats a little bit. So you started to run down, some of what's going on here with CeeDee Lamb and JMO. So I found this cool little site that gives me a little bit of a matchup breakdown.
Yep.
And you were right on it. So fantasy points, right now, CeeDee Lamb is 13th. JMO is 33rd. Points per game, CD is 19th. JMO is 26th. Now, the biggest point that you made, or you're starting to make, is that JMO is a game behind CeeDee Lamb. So you kind of have to take the stats with a little, grain of salt here, because, and I'm not saying that JMO is going to have 12 catches in the game and catch up to CeeDee Lamb, but CeeDee Lamb is also the number 1 wide receiver on this team. JMO's number 2, number 3 at times.
Yeah, and if you average what JMO has done through the first 4 games and take one more game and add that to it, just average, he's doing better than CeeDee Lamb.
By which measurement?
By average yards, and then he would have more yards than CeeDee Lamb. So if you added what his average yards were,
so right now JMO's a bigger big play threat than CD. So CD is averaging 15.1 yards per catch, and JMO's averaging 22.2. So if I'm gonna go through all the positives about JMO. So when I say all of these stats right now, they're all for JMO, and they're better than CeeDee Lamb. So yards per reception, long catch of the season, 20 plus explosive plays, yards per attempt in rushing, and long in rushing. And that's about it. But on the other side, for CeeDee Lamb, you've got receptions, targets, yards overall, in rushing, attempts, yards, and then miscellaneous 5 games to JMO's 4, fantasy points 76 to 56, fantasy points per game 15.3 to 14, snaps 287 to 229, snaps per game dead even 57. Points, 100 snaps, 26.6 for CD, 24.5 for JMO. So to Eric's point, if you average in a 5th game, JMO is doing better than CeeDee Lamb in a lot of measurements right now. A lot of different metrics, if you will. Sorry. So what else do you want to add to that?
Well, JMO had one egg of a game.
One egg of a game?
Yep, against Arizona. He crapped the bed. 1 reception for 9 yards. Okay. So that was against Arizona, but we didn't need him. We ran the ball, right? That's how we won that game against Arizona. We ran it down their throat. I don't think we can just run it down their throat against Dallas. We're going to have a little more even of a mix, kind of like we did against the Seahawks. I see
you sure about that?
I think yes, I am. I think we have to have a game plan very similar to what we did against the Seahawks. I think Jared Goff has to have an efficient game, and I think JMO needs another one of those 50-yard touchdown plays, because against the Seahawks, he only had 2 receptions, but he had 80 yards and a touchdown. If we can get that kind of production out of him this week, heck yeah, I'll take it all day.
So you're expecting more of a balanced attack versus the Cowboys, a little bit of run, a little bit of pass. And
a little closer to 50-50, maybe 60-40, 60% run, 40% pass.
Well, that's kind of opposite of what you just said. So are we running more, or are we passing more?
More equal. A little bit more run than pass, but very similar to what we did against the Seahawks.
So here's what I'm going to say. I have absolutely zero for the Dallas Cowboys defensive line going into this game. And I know that's a pot shot, because they've been playing well the last couple of weeks. Even given the injuries that they've had, the Dallas Cowboys have been playing well. The other factor to this, on the offensive side of the ball for Dallas, I have
No respect.
for their offensive line. And I will tell you right now that this is going to be a bigger defensive game, I feel, than it would be an offensive game. But it's matching up to be a grounded, pounded kind of day. My prediction, and I'll get to it, might shock you with how many yards I think the Lions are going to run on the Cowboys. And we'll get to all that in a few moments. But I feel like the Lions are in a good position right now defensively. And when I show you or go through some of the stats that I found, it could be a crazy good game for the Lions. And I hate to do that to myself, because when you look at the stats, you're like, oh my God, we are going to eat these dudes alive. Mm-hmm. And we've said that before. We said it last year against the Seahawks. We've said it against Kansas City to open the season last year because they were down so many offensive linemen. And look, it didn't go as planned. So we still won the game against Kansas City, but man, we got destroyed by the Seahawks. So sometimes the stats only tell part of the story. And I think that's something I've been saying all season. And coming from a stat nerd, it's hard for me to say that. Here's where they're the same. Okay. Here's where CeeDee Lamb and J-Mo are the same. They both caught a few fines after week 4. CeeDee Lamb he drew 2 different fines from the NFL front office. He was fined for 2 separate plays in the week 4 win over the Giants. It was announced Saturday that he was docked $25,324 for an unnecessary roughness call that was not considered a penalty during the week 3 loss to Baltimore, which cost him $22,511. So CeeDee Lamb is being targeted right now by the NFL with fines. The first incident from last Thursday's 20-5 win to draw the league's attention came after a first quarter catch by Lamb that gained 10 yards. After being tackled at the Giants 30, Lamb motioned with, the finger guns or whatever they call it, and the NFL didn't like it. So he got fined for that, and then they considered it a violent gesture. Cost him $14,069. And then he was also fined $11,255 for taunting. So taunting and the unsportsmanlike conduct being a violent gesture. Wow. Man, players have been doing that forever. Forever. And
They're trying to put a stop to it.
It has never been a problem. Now, J-Mo caught a couple of fines, or at least one.
One, yeah.
And that was for dunking the ball over the goalpost in his shout out to Calvin Johnson against the Seahawks. So both players were the same in week 4, causing trouble, which is fine. This is not called the no fun league for nothing. I mean, it's the no fun league at times. So I would really like to know, did we get any yes or no answers in the I don't see any yes or no answers. Maybe they have to put it in the chat. I forgot. I didn't put up a poll. I put up a Q&A. So yes or no, J-Mo has a better game than CeeDee Lamb. Start throwing some predictions in there. How many yards do you think? How many touchdowns? How many catches?
Yeah.
I'm interested to know what you guys are thinking here. So let's talk about PFF real quick. What is PFF saying?
Let's look.
Let's find out. So Jameson Williams, PFF, right now, he has had 24 targets on the season. Here, let me get these lined up together. Come on. All right. He's had 24 targets on the season to CeeDee Lamb's 38. He's had 13 receptions to CeeDee Lamb's 25. He's caught 289 yards to CeeDee Lamb's 378. But again, to Eric's point, if you take that 289 and divide it by 4 and then multiply it by 5, he's only behind CeeDee Lamb by 17 yards.
Yeah.
2 receiving touchdowns apiece. Now their PFF grades are damn near identical. Overall, J-Mo's a 69.7. He's better than CeeDee Lamb right now at a 66.1. In receiving, J-Mo's a 70.8 to CeeDee Lamb's 68.2. And in rushing, JMO's a 66.5 to 62.7. So right now, if you were to judge everything off of stats, JMO deserves a bag. You know, he's having a good season so far. I don't remember if CeeDee Lamb had any injuries to get off the season. Like if he started off, you know what I mean? If he started off the season a little bit hampered. I don't remember if he did or not.
No, he's just been having a down year. And you want to know what this guy did in fantasy football? In the beginning of the year, I'm in a keeper league that I've been in for like 16 years. And you can keep 3 players. You can keep anybody you want. I traded CeeDee Lamb for Jahmyr Gibbs.
Yeah.
Guess who's doing way better?
Probably Gibbs.
Yep.
Of course. Of course. So here's what I see. 22.2 yards per reception. Here's what else I see. The Cowboys defense is suffering a little bit right now. They might get a boost in their secondary with Deron Bland. But the story is, if he does make it back, it's going to be in a limited role. Mm-hmm. So with Deron Bland coming into this game a little bit banged up, that does help CeeDee Lamb's chances. And it also helps Jared Goff because their pickmaster is either going to be out of the game or on a pitch count. And coming back from this injury, it's not like he's going to bounce back and just be himself. It's going to take a little bit. And this is a big game. So there's going to be a lot of anxiety. There's going to be a lot of emotion. According to the Cowboys executive VP, Stephen Jones, he said that Bland could at least have a limited role when the team takes on Detroit Sunday. His quote was this: "I think Deron Bland has a real chance. I don't know if he'll play the whole game, but I think he's ready to start mixing it up." This was said yesterday, by the way, or I'm sorry, Tuesday. Short of a real setback, Deron should be ready to dress and help us on the defensive side of the ball and the secondary. Now, Deron Bland, as we know, led the NFL in interceptions last season with 9, including a single season record of 5 interceptions returned for touchdown. He did suffer the injury 2 weeks before the start of the season, so he's been battling this now for at least 7 weeks. The Cowboys placed Bland on IR to return, meaning he was forced to miss the first 4 games of the season. He was not ready to return last week against the Steelers, but that could change on Sunday versus the Detroit Lions. Now, in Deron Bland's absence, the Cowboys have started 3 different cornerbacks in 5 games. Kalen Carson, who's also injured right now, he started the first 3 games before suffering a shoulder injury. And then in the last 2 weeks, it's been Andrew Booth and your buddy, Amani Oruwariye. So here's my big opinion on this. Trayvon Diggs is the only solid corner they have right now. If you have any combination of Trayvon Diggs, Andrew Booth, and Amani Oruwariye in this game, man, we're going to pick them apart. Absolutely going to pick them apart. If Deron Bland enters this game, I still think the Lions are going to pick him apart. I don't think that he's going to be back to his normal self. I'm not saying that Jared Goff's just going to target him right away, but I'm saying Jared Goff should probably target him right away. You put JMO up on Deron Bland, you go deep, you just let him feel it. That's how I would take advantage of the opposition. Someone's coming back for their first game. They don't have the full game speed yet. They haven't been in a game. I don't care how many years you've played in the NFL. If you have not been in a game with game speed, it is much quicker than you anticipate. And that's why it usually takes, a couple of quarters to get your feet underneath you again. That's why you put the fastest wide receiver on your team up against Deron Bland. You somehow get them singled up, and you fly JMO deep and you toss that ball up, and you're going to have a touchdown. I guarantee it. Well, I can't guarantee it, but I guarantee it would be a great opportunity for the Lions. So they're banged up. They're banged up in the defensive backfield. As long as Jared Goff has a little bit of time to throw, I think that we're going to be just fine. Any comments on that?
I'm going to take JMO for an anytime touchdown this weekend.
There you go.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That. And I was thinking earlier in the day that I need to do that for Laporta as well. So maybe I'll do a double dunk, one for Laporta, one for JMO.
I think that this is a game that Laporta could show up in, especially if they're going to try to limit Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yep.
that's going to leave JMO and Laporta some options over the middle. And I think the Cowboys they're limited. All right. They don't have a plethora of DBs like we do.
Yeah.
Our DB room, even though they're not playing the greatest, and I think that's just stat driven, that they're not playing the greatest. They're still one of the better units, in my opinion, in the league. Stats be damned. We've had a couple of games where we've played this bend but don't break, and we kind of let a lot of stats up. The biggest problem we have is penalties. So if you remove the penalties, you're going to remove about half of those yards. I mean, it's about 100 yards or so just in penalties, but you also have to remember that gave those teams more shots, gave them more opportunity, to drive down the field, which gave them more yards. So you remove the penalties, and that defense is much better than what you're seeing on paper. Another report here out of Dallas talking about Deron Bland, and then we'll move on from this one. So he had a stress fracture, which popped up late in training camp. So that's what he's battling right now. That's why he was placed on injured reserve. So it required him to miss the first 4 games of the season, like we talked about. And according to him, he says he's getting better, or I'm getting better. I'm always disappointed not to get on the field. It's better for me to be 100% or close to 100%. If I could be out there, I'd be out there. So there it is. And then safety Marquez Bell is suffering an illness right now. Linebacker Eric Kendricks has a calf shoulder injury, and linebacker Nick Vigil has a foot injury. And then, of course, we know Micah Parsons didn't practice on Wednesday, and he's more than likely not going to be playing this weekend. So that is going to give your Sam Laporta some opportunity with Micah Parsons out. They can only put so many guys, over the middle, right? So
yeah.
The story on Micah Parsons, since we're going through injuries right now, is this. He was held out of practice on Wednesday, and the Dallas Cowboys, they narrowly defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they did it without the services of Micah Parsons. So it's not a habit that the Cowboys want to continue, but unfortunately, they may not have a choice against the Detroit Lions. So the Dallas Cowboys had their first practice yesterday ahead of Sunday's game, and among the half a dozen or so players who didn't get any work in on Wednesday, Parsons is still battling this high ankle sprain. So again, how would I attack that? If Parsons was to get in the game, you better believe that I'm going to send somebody over top of him every time and make him run deep routes. Every time. I'm going to be dragging him out of the middle as much as possible. But at the same time, they may decide to put somebody else over him. But you got to stack the line, do some big jumbo formations, or some triple sets, whatever. You've got to stack it over top of him to make him have to take an assignment. You just send everybody deep. Whoever picks him up, let me say it the other way. Whoever Parsons picks up, they just got to keep on running. Like Forrest Gump, just keep on running. Other players who did not practice with the Cowboys, like I said, it was Marquise Bell, Eric Kendricks, right guard Zach Martin, linebacker Nick Vigil, and cornerback Deron Bland. He was back in practice for the first time, coming off of injured reserve, first time. So I think that tells you something. He doesn't have his feet yet. All right, now any comments on that, Eric?
Yeah, they're banged up. But you have to remember, every time we go up against a squad where we're totally healthy and they're all banged up, they come out and play with their hair on fire. It happens every single time. We think we're going to just roll and have this easy game, and it never works out that way. Those are the games we either lose or we have a really tight game. And I think this is going to be a really tight game. That's just the way I see it happening. I don't care how many injuries they have. The Cowboys always play us super tough, and especially at home.
Yeah, I expect they'll play us tough. I just don't expect it to be that tight of a game. And I'll explain why in a minute, why I'm feeling that way. It doesn't mean it's going to end up that way, but I'll explain why I'm feeling that way. And I'm going to explain all that and more when we come back from this ad from our sponsor. Did we get to 50 likes? Let's get to at least 50 so we can get the ads turned off.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.
And so we're back now, and we've got to check the likes here. Did we get up there yet?
48. We're real close.
Well, we just need 2 more. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt today. Let's get this thing up to 100. Let me turn off these ads. All you gotta do is just pop out of the chat real quick, smash the like button, come on back. There we go. Couple of things I'll address in the chat real quick. Mike P says, Parsons, you run right at him, pound the rock right at him. I would agree. Trace says, yay, no Cletus says the ref. And guess what? No Brad Allen either, says Steve K. We kind of spoke to that yesterday, didn't we? We got Hussey, I think, is the lead ref for this game.
Yeah.
And I've been tracking Brad Allen. Literally, like he's the Santa tracker. Been tracking Brad Allen this year.
Isn't he doing like 6 or 7 Jet games in a row?
Yeah. And I think that starts mid-October. I don't think it starts this weekend. I don't have the tracker in front of me, but yeah, he starts with the Jets for five or 6 games in a row, home and away. So he's going to be following them around, which I find really odd.
Yeah, and then they fired their coach yesterday.
Let's pay attention to what happens with the Jets. Let's see if they win a few games by officiating. I'm going to be watching every Jets game now for the rest of the season. As long as they're not playing at the same time the Lions are, I'll have to go back and watch it. On the ref situation, though, Hussey, from what I gathered, has called the least amount of penalties this season for home and away. Nice. So that's good news that we might actually be in a game where we are going to be able to just play, which would benefit
Terrion Arnold.
Terrion Arnold and sorry, I was trying to read something. And Carlton Davis, letting him just play. Now, CeeDee Lamb he's not like a big physical receiver. He's more of a finesse receiver, but he will mix it up. I mean, he's not afraid to mix it up. But I see this being an opportunity for these guys to maybe just be able to play. Still, they have to keep their damn hands in their pockets. Let's see. Trey says it won't be a tight game. All right, so let's do this. We're going to end the Q&A. And let's do this. Let's do a poll this morning. Let's do a poll. Yes or no?
I'll be right back.
Yep. Will the Lions win by 10 or more points? Eric's making some noise. Will the Lions win by 10 or more points? My answer right away would be yes. I think that they would. Tyler Guyton was the last injury that I wanted to highlight real quick, and this kind of rolls into the defense portion and kind of stacking up Jared Goff versus Dak Prescott and what is potentially going to happen for the Detroit Lions defense this weekend. Tyler Guyton's a rookie. He's a damn good rookie. He hasn't had the greatest of seasons. Matter of fact, let me get his stats back up. Tyler Guyton is rated right now as one of the worst left tackles in the league. 49.7 overall. He has 8 penalties. He's allowed 4 sacks, 1 hit, and 13 pressures so far on the season. But he's a little bit banged up. So he suffered some sort of a knee injury. Let me get it open here. I think it was week 5. So Tyler Guyton was a full participant in Wednesday's practice, according to Adam Kaplan. Now, it indicates that Guyton has already moved past the knee injury that he sustained in week 5 versus the Steelers. So expect the 2024 first-round draft pick to continue serving as the Dallas Cowboys' top left tackle as the season progresses. Now, just saying that he's a top left tackle, there's no weight behind this because he's rated as one of the worst left tackles in the league right now. And when we take an overall look at this offensive line, I would say that the Lions are in good shape defensively. Again, Aiden Hutchinson is going to have a pretty solid matchup. I don't know if Eric's back yet. Let me see if he's back. Yep, he's back. Here we go. Welcome back.
Yeah, it's chilly outside.
Yeah, so what I was saying is Tyler Guyton, their first-round draft pick, has been their left tackle, and he's rated as one of the worst left tackles. He suffered a knee injury versus the Steelers last week in week 5, and he is set to play again on this Sunday. So Aiden Hutchinson is going to have another favorable matchup. Now, whether Aiden's on the right or the left, I would say yes, both. I think he's going to move around quite a bit. Pass blocking for the Dallas Cowboys, they are ranked, according to PFF, 26th in the league with a 58.7. And their run blocking, they are ranked 18th in the league at 62.1. So favorable matchups for the Detroit Lions, but let's take a look at what it really means. And then the stats that I pulled in this morning about Mr. Perfect versus Mr. Prescott. Here's what we're going to start with. Dak Prescott. Mr. Dak Prescott. Get my other notes up here. And then we'll come back. So Dak right now, I'm going to highlight a lot of numbers. I apologize. You just have to bear with me. Time to throw. Right now, Dak Prescott only has 2.7 seconds on average throughout the first 5 weeks of time to throw. He's taken 12 sacks, 55 pressures. He's pressured 26.7% of dropbacks. He has a 65.4% completion rate. He has a passer rating of 92.9. He's thrown 8 TDs to 4 interceptions. He's tossed 1,424 yards so far on the season. Here's a stat that, in my opinion, is going to give the Lions a big opportunity, depending how Dallas plays it. Now, if I were Dallas, I'm going to do the exact opposite of what I've been doing against the Lions. Dak is only running 18.4% of plays in play action, which is ranked 28th in the league. So, Eric, if you know that, what would you probably do versus the Lions? If you were calling the offense,
Get after him once in a while.
No. Like if you're only running 18.4% of plays in play action throughout the first 5 weeks of the season, what are you probably going to want to do this weekend?
I don't know.
Well, the answer would be run play action. Because right now the Lions are looking at this and they're saying, okay, if they're only in play action 18.4% of the time, do I really need to contain? Or can I pin it back and get after Dak? 1 out of 5 times right now they're running play action, which means we could get burned 1 out of 5 plays. So if I were calling the offense, I would do more play action this weekend because the Lions probably wouldn't expect it based on stats. But being professionals that they are, I would have to imagine they're going to expect something from Dak in this Dallas Cowboys offense that's going to be different. More on Dak here. I'm going to refer to some next-gen stats here, but he's taking more sacks without the blitz than he is with the blitz. Does anybody remember what I've said over the last couple of weeks about blitzing and getting sacks, and how I've said, Eric, do you remember what I said about sacks and why? Well, let me just ask. Do you remember what I said? This is a way too wide open question, but
got to get that pressure up the middle from your big guys.
that is it. But what did I say about getting sacks and how it should happen with middle pressure, right? And why it doesn't need to happen with the outside guys as often. There's a very definitive thing that I said, and I know I'm leaving it wide open. I can't really describe it without giving it away.
Making the wedge, the W?
No, so I'll just tell you what it is. It's a hard one to figure out. Happen naturally. That's what I keep saying. You don't need another top tier defensive end when you can allow sacks to just happen naturally. And what I mean by that is utilizing the interior defensive line to get pressure, and the sacks will just happen naturally. So in this case point, or this subject matter, Dak is taking more sacks without a blitz. So that means sacks are happening more naturally, which means the offensive line is collapsing on their own. Now, if you want to look real quick, Eric, while I'm going through some of this, pull up PFF defensive rankings, and then take a look at the Dallas Cowboys opponents on the season, and tell me where their pass rush is ranked for each of their opponents so far through the season.
Oh, let's see if I can figure that out.
Yeah, you just pull up, just the general team stats. Yeah, you go to premium stats, you go to team.
Yep. I'm on there.
All teams, right? And then you whittle it down. You just hit pass rush, and that'll put the top number at the top. And then you have to go find Dallas Cowboys schedule, and then I'll come back to you in just a few moments and ask you what those stats say. So Dak Prescott versus the Lions defense and versus the old Mr. Perfect here. After leading the NFL in both completion percentage, 66%, and completion percentage over the expected, plus 8.7%, when facing man coverage last season, Dak Prescott now ranks 25th in completion percentage and 50.9%, and 17th in completion percentage over the expected. Now, that's a minus 0.1% on such passes throughout this season. Now, expected just means every time you drop back to make a pass, how many points are you expected to help the bottom line of the score? And it tracks it by percentage. If you have a successful pass, obviously your percentage goes up. If it leads to a touchdown, if it leads to points, field goal or otherwise, your percentage goes up. So what this is telling you is the more Dak drops back, the less successful they are adding points to the board. Now, Dak Prescott threw into a tight window on just 11.9% of his total attempts in week 5 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. His first game this season with a tight window pass rate under 22%. So something changed against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They clearly did something different. Now, Prescott completed 2 of 5 tight window passes for 11 yards and the game-winning touchdown to Jalen Tolbert late in the fourth quarter. His first tight window touchdown pass of the season, that was his first tight window touchdown pass of the season. Prescott's tight window pass rate this season is just 24.1%. It still ranks the second highest in the NFL, behind Brock Purdy at 24.2. Now, against the Detroit Lions defense, we have forced a tight window. Get this, 34.4% of all passes when we are in man coverage. What do we love to run? Man coverage. The third highest rate in the NFL right now is that 34.4%. Now, when playing zone coverage, the Lions' tight window rate drops all the way down to 8.5%, which is the 9th lowest in the NFL. So if we just look at this, right, and let's try to figure out what are these numbers telling us. Prescott had a bad weekend versus the Steelers, throwing into tight window opportunities. The Lions, so far through the season, have forced the third highest amount of tight window opportunities. in man. So if we run zone, Dak's going to pick us apart. If we run man, we have a better opportunity. I'm not going to say we're going to shut them down. We just have a better opportunity when we are in man. So what would that tell me? That would tell me as Aaron Glenn, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a little bit of man. I'm going to run a little bit of zone. I'm going to have a couple of safeties over top. And then I'm also going to have Carlton and Terrian run man against CeeDee Lamb. And then I'm going to bracket CeeDee Lamb with somebody. So that's how I would run this offense. You got to pay attention to Tolbert this weekend. But I don't believe that Tolbert is going to beat the Lions often enough to be able to win the game. If I remember correctly, the Dallas depth chart in the receiver room is fairly bleak right now. You have Jalen Tolbert, CeeDee Lamb, and Kevonta Turpin. Brandon Cooks is on IR. So behind them, you have Ryan Flournoy and Jalen Brooks. Kevonta Turpin, he's only got 105 yards on 9 receptions and 1 touchdown this season. Jalen Tolbert has 247 yards on 20 receptions and 2 touchdowns this season. And then we've already gone over CeeDee Lamb's. He's got 378 yards, 25 receptions, and 2 touchdowns. So as long as we limit one of these guys, which I would hope that it's going to be CeeDee Lamb, there's no reason in the world why the Lions can't win this game, especially when we shut down the run. But the Lions need to run more man defense this weekend. All right, did you find those stats?
No, I suck at PFF.
Here, let me pull it up.
I got to the by team reports for Dallas, but
Did you get their schedule at least?
I can look it up.
So you just gave up. I see how it is.
No, I don't know.
You just gave up. You know, you fired. See
So-
how it is.
They played Cleveland, New Orleans, Baltimore, New York, and Pittsburgh.
All right. So Cleveland, they are the 4th best in pass rush so far this season. Who was the next game?
New Orleans.
New Orleans. They are the 15th best in pass rush. Who's next?
Baltimore.
Baltimore Ravens. We know they're in the top 10, so they are 9th in pass rush.
And then you have the New York Giants.
And the Giants, wow, they are 8th, 73.4.
Oh, wow. And then Pittsburgh.
And the old Steelers. Steelers. Where are the Steelers? I thought the Steelers would be up a little bit higher. They're number 1. That's why I'm not seeing them. 90.3. And your Detroit Lions are number 2. So we should expect more of the same from the Detroit Lions this weekend against the Dallas Cowboys. If stats mean something, if stats can tell you the outcome of a game, it's going to tell you that Dak is going to have some trouble. As long as we kind of follow the footprint of what the Pittsburgh Steelers try to lay down for us. The blueprint. What did I say? Footprint? Blueprint.
Yeah. I'd expect about 3 sacks.
Yeah, I'd say you're right. I think that's what I wrote in my sheet when I sent it to you.
Sure.
That's kind of where I'm at too. And look, I think the sacks happen naturally. I don't think that we have to go so aggressive on the outside that we're taking ourselves out of plays. I really don't think it's going to happen, especially with a rookie left tackle. I mean, there's no reason in the world why Aiden can't eat this dude alive, right? You're going up in your 5th game against 3rd-tier tackles all season, and now you're going up against a rookie. If Aiden can't beat Tyler Guyton this weekend and get at least 1 sack, I am going to melt down on Monday. Because there's no excuse for it. I'm sorry. There's zero excuse. He's coming off a knee injury. He's a rookie. I don't care that he was drafted in the 1st round, but then again, I do care because when you're drafted in the 1st round, you should play to a certain level. And this dude, Tyler Guyton, is below 50 PFF grade. His coverage is terrible in pass blocking and run blocking. So Aiden better eat him up. Better eat him up. That's all I'm saying. But I'm only giving Aiden 1 sack. That's it.
Yeah. I think that this weekend, in the beginning of the game, we do not need to have a spy. So Anzalone or Rodrigo do not need to spy Dak Prescott in the beginning of the game. And here's why. Because this year, Dak Prescott has only ran, 8 times total.
Yep.
The whole year. for a whopping 24 yards. That's 3 yards a carry. Who cares if he runs once or twice? That's fine. I say we don't need to spy him at all. Let's take that linebacker and put him back in coverage or something. Let's keep the middle so we're not getting tore up by their tight end.
I love it. I think you're spot on, Eric. I really do.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you're looking at, the fact that Prescott's not running.
Yeah,
He's just not.
Not at all. I don't know if it's an ankle, what it is, but he's not running this year where he did before.
Is somebody seriously comparing Aiden to Reggie White right now?
What?
I'm gonna end this stream.
Big shaka.
Come on, man. Look, they're not even close.
We'll see what happens.
Not even. Look, Reggie is Reggie. Reggie is Reggie. Ain't nobody gonna touch. I mean, the closest person to Reggie right now is the Watt brothers.
Yeah.
And he was that's why he was tempted to come back, because I think he only needed like 2 or 3 more sacks or something like that. Yeah, but JJ Watt, man, he was the closest I think you're ever gonna get to Reggie. And if you think that Aiden's close to JJ, we can have another talk, but we're not doing that today.
Yeah, we got to give him some time. Let's season a little bit. Everybody wants to crown Hutchinson, but hey, listen, he's doing good, but he's not doing that good yet. Let's see what he does this year. No, me personally, I'm a big homer. I took a bunch of bets on him to be defensive player of the year. So if he gets it, man, I win a bag, but I don't expect it. Okay.
Right. Well, I hope you do. I want Hutch to succeed.
So do I. I want him to win.
Want him to win it.
I want to win a bunch of money. So yeah, I'd love it.
You remember all bets placed that are mentioned on this channel, 50% goes to me, right?
Yeah. You might want to get out of my Super Bowl ones then. I got some big ones there.
All right, so here's the other reason why I'm confident that the Lions don't have to blitz as often to be successful against Dak Prescott. And I believe that these stats are helpful, right? They're meaningful. He's only been blitzed on 21.7% of his dropbacks this season. He's only been pressured on 26.7% of dropbacks as well. So both of those are the lowest rates for Prescott since 2018, and he's taken 4 sacks right now. And I think that was through 4 games. I don't think that was through 5 games. So he's been one of the more productive passers against pressure this season, with a league high 5 TDs under pressure and a plus 9.6 CPOE, which is second among quarterbacks. So yes, he's been better against pressure, but at the same time, they're still getting to him without blitzing him a whole lot. And the Lions it seems like we blitz often. I don't know the exact number on how many blitzes we've had. I've struggled to find that stat for some reason. But just looking at the game, I would say that we're not blitzing a ton. I mean, you're always rushing your front 4, it seems like. They're always trying to do something. But then again, you'll see where they drop back and just kind of hang out in containment too, which means they're not, blitzing the quarterback. Prescott has also thrown short of the sticks on over half of his dropbacks this season. First time since 2018. This sounds like a Detroit Lions problem, right? I mean, how many times do we see the Lions finish short of the sticks? So if we do get pressure on Dak Prescott, doesn't mean we have to blitz. Remember, we can still get pressure without blitzing. We can just let it happen naturally. And it's forcing him to get the ball out a little early. It appears that he's throwing short of the sticks. Now, if he's throwing short of the sticks, what would I do with my DBs in this game? I would say, hey, look, you got to hug the line. You've got to stay under the first down marker, because he's going to throw it short anyway, and you're going to want to drop that receiver right then and there. So I would pay attention to these things. You've got to stay inside the sticks to stop the first down. Don't let him catch it short and run it for a first down. Catch it, do what Brian Branch does, and drop him. Brian Branch is one of the best. And matter of fact, Terrion Arnold has actually been one of the better tacklers against receivers this season. Like he's fairly dropping receivers where they catch the ball. a fair amount of times, but they have to stick to that. Prescott is also thrown into tight windows like we had talked about at the highest rate among quarterbacks, 27.5% of attempts. Target a receiver with less than 1 yard of separation when the pass arrives. So what is that telling me? Well, if he's willing to gamble on all of these passes, you just got to be ready to get it. You got to be ready to jump in front of it. That means he's not afraid. If you're tight in coverage, that means that he is not afraid to throw the ball. So Kirby, I'm telling you right now, if Kirby doesn't have at least one interception in this game, I would be surprised. The other person that I expect to get an interception in this game is Amik Robertson. I think the way that Amik has been playing and the fact that he's been shading so well and staying hidden in coverage, I think that this is an opportunity for Amik Robertson. It could be an opportunity for Terrion Arnold with his tight of coverage that he's has played, but that's going to have to come against Tolbert. It won't come against CeeDee Lamb. So there's opportunity here. I'm going to say 2 interceptions, and I think that the 3 players that have a really great opportunity is going to be Kirby, Amik Robertson, and Terrion Arnold in this game. We might see Terrion Arnold's first interception. We might. Dak Prescott has also used play action, like I said earlier, only 18.6% of dropbacks this season, which is the lowest rate of his career, and I think it was like 26th or 27th in the league, which tells me, again, you do not have to worry as much that they're going to fake the run and try to pass. If they're running, they're running. If they're passing, they're passing. So for that reason, you could blitz more often if you wanted to, because you're not going to get burned up the middle with a handoff. But I do expect them to do something a little bit different. Maybe they'll do more play action in this game than they have done all season. Maybe they did it this way by purpose so that this game they try to fool us a little bit, based on their stats. Dak Prescott is thrown into tight windows, like I said, with 1 yard of separation or less. Lions have to be ready to jump in front of the ball. Let's see here. Get back to.
You forgot somebody on our defense.
Who's that?
Brian Branch.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm going to say he's the one that's going to have the big game, Brian Branch.
I don't doubt that he won't have a big game, but because he's now playing in this safety position, I feel like his interception opportunity is not as prevalent. Because
how many did he almost have? Like 3 already that he could have caught that hit his hands. He just couldn't catch the ball. He's everywhere.
Yeah, I just feel like he's kind of like Kirby plays in a different position. As long as Branch is up closer to the box, yeah, he'll have more opportunity. But if he's back deep, if we're in the too high shell, he's not going to have his
bomb to CeeDee Lamb. You watch.
He's not going to have as much opportunity.
Brian Branch can get one.
All right, let's flip it over to Jared Goff. What are we talking about here between Jared Goff and Dak Prescott? Who's going to have the better game? So let's end this poll. 73% of people said this morning that will the Lions win by 10 or more points? They said yes. So I'll end the poll. So now you tell me, if you voted no, how many points do you think the Lions are going to win by, or do you feel the Lions are going to lose? Let me know in the chat or the comments below. If you did not vote yes for the Lions to win by more than 10 points, what are you thinking? I would like to know. Next poll. Who's going to have the better game? If I could type. Jared Goff or Dak Prescott? Now, better game is an all-encompassing question. So it's yards, it's touchdowns, it's interceptions or lack thereof. You don't necessarily have to win the game to have a better game. Lions fan 76 says they're going to win by 7. Bo Booth, that's too funny. Eric says 27-20. Yeah, we're not going to get to our predictions today. You're just going to have to post it on Twitter and then send me a copy so I can update.
Yeah, I text you all my picks.
Oh, you did today?
Yep.
Oh, yeah, I didn't look. All right, so let's talk about Jared Goff here for a moment. Pass per game. Pass yards per game, 253.8. Dak Prescott, 284.8. Pass TDs per game, 1.3 for Jared Goff, 1.6 for Dak Prescott. Interceptions per game, 0.8 for Dak, 1.0 for Jared. Now, that's because he's only played 4 games to Dak's 5. Rating, Jared Goff's rating, 95.3. Dak Prescott, 92.9. Rush yards per game, Jared Goff has 4. Dak Prescott, 4.8. So, projected stats. Jared Goff is projected to have 256.7 yards in this game, 1.8 TDs, so under on 2 TDs, 0.7 interceptions. He's going to run for 3.6 yards, and he has a 0.1% chance of getting a rush TD in this game. Overall passing efficiency. Jared Goff is number 9 in the league versus the Cowboys' 21st ranked defense against passing efficiency. Overall rushing efficiency. The Lions offense is ranked 6th against the Cowboys' 32nd ranked defense. Pressure rate. The Lions are allowing the 13th most pressures to their quarterback, whereas the Cowboys defense is providing the 9th most pressures against the opponent. So in overall passing efficiency, the Lions have a 3-star advantage. In overall rushing efficiency, the Lions have a 5-star advantage. And under pressure rate, the Lions do not have any advantage. The Cowboys have a 1-star advantage, which is about even, right? They're also missing some players like Parsons and Lawrence and others. So this defense is going to look much different against the Lions. Jared Goff has faced zone on a league high, 85.1% of his dropbacks. More specifically, Goff has faced cover 3 on 47.8% of his dropbacks this season, the highest rate in the NFL by a margin of 6.2%. Bo Nix is the highest at 41.6%. Now, Goff has thrown 3 of his 4 interceptions on the season against cover 3, but he ranks top 10 in completion percentage of 76.2%. That's pretty damn good. Yards per attempt, 9, and dropback success rate of 51.6% on the season. Now, for the matchup against the Cowboys have played zone coverage 71.8% of snaps and cover 3 on 31.3% at rate similar to the NFL average this season. The NFL average is 70.9 and 30.7. So just off the top of your head, Eric, what is that saying for Jared Goff heading into this game? If you were to totally base everything on stats, what did that just tell us?
I'm thinking that Goff is just slightly ahead of Dak Prescott stat-wise, because you have to figure in one more game. They've had one more game. And if you look at the passer ratings for Dak Prescott and for Jared Goff, the last 2 games has been 113 and 155. And good old Dak Prescott has only had 1 game, the second game, 2 games ago, against the Giants, where he was above 100 in passer rating. That was a 125. So he had 1 good game against the Giants. Every other game is sub 100 passer rating. So I'm going to give the edge to Jared Goff in this one.
So I just sent you an email. If you want to open that up, you'd have to log into the stat machine, and it'll kind of give you what I'm talking about here as far as insights. So what this would tell me is this: Jared Goff has his most difficulty against cover 3. It's pretty simple. That's what the stats say. What it also says, and I'm going to take a wild guess here without knowing exactly what happened last season. I'm going to say that the last couple of seasons, the Lions have gone up against more man defense. And the reason why I say that is because clearly we've had some difficulty with the offense getting going early. And I have a feeling that teams are probably looking at this like, okay, if we run man, these guys are able to get more separation, and Jared Goff is able to find the windows, right? He's able to find the passing lanes, and all the player has to do is get to the spot. And if he can get to the spot, the ball is there. But in zone, it adds a new wrinkle, because now you have guys in close proximity to where you're trying to fit the ball. And for that reason, I think that you're seeing Jared Goff hold the ball just a little bit longer, waiting for the defenders to move and get out of that zone and hope that, Amon-Ra St. Brown or J-Mo or Laporta or somebody is now going to get open. And that's not always happening. And so Jared Goff holds the ball, takes a sack, holds the ball, has to dirt it or throw it away, or holds the ball and throws it to an outlet where we get minimal yards on the play, except for the one that we had with Demo, obviously worked out perfectly. So that's what it tells me, that the Dallas Cowboys run a lot of zone, and they run, over 30% of their plays in cover 3. Expecting that. Jared Goff is expecting that. I'm expecting a different style of offense from Ben Johnson. He's going to have to reach a little bit deeper into his bag of tricks this weekend. And I'm not saying trick plays, but he's going to have to reach in a little bit deeper and find some different opportunities for this offense to be successful. If they're in zone and they're in cover 3 and you've got these guys backed up a little bit, that means what I've been feeling about this game all week is the Lions are going to pound the damn rock early and often to the tune of 160 yards in this game.
Ooh, nice.
I think there's going to be 160 of ground game, and I think that we're potentially going to have 3 touchdowns to our running backs. 2 on the ground, 1 in the air. That's what I'm expecting. I'm not expecting a ton of air raid offense. Yes, we're going to get the ball up and often and get it out to our receivers and tight ends, but I'm not necessarily expecting that that's how we're going to finish our drives. Unless J-Mo gets free in space, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, the same thing, which doesn't happen very often. I think that this game is going to be 1 on the ground, and I think that we're going to go the distance by keeping the ball in our pocket by running the ball, right? We want to win that possession clock. Now, Jared Goff, he uses play action on a career high this season of 37%, and I find that funny because for me, I haven't noticed as much play action this season. Totally forgot to turn off my speaker. I hope that it hasn't impacted volume this morning. I just remembered. Hopefully my mic is not off, like crazy off. Nope, volume's good. Hopefully it just wasn't going through the speaker. So anyway, to me that's thrown me off a little bit, that Jared Goff has used so much play action. I don't see it. You don't see it when you're watching the game. It doesn't seem like we are as often. I felt like we were running more play action last season. And of course, with only 18 passes in last week's game or 2 weeks ago, that kind of shortens the number a little bit. What I mean is the percentage of dropbacks is a lot less. So it may have artificially inflated that number. Does that make sense, Eric?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So Goff ranks top 4 in the NFL in terms of completion percentage, 76.1%. His yards per attempt, 11.7. His passing yards, 538. Completion percentage, over expected, plus 7.9. And his expected points per attempt per dropback is plus 0.41 on play action this season. Of his league leading 538 passing yards on play action passes, 202 of them have come on 6 completions to who? Who do you think?
Amon-Ra.
202 yards have come on passes in play action to Jameson Williams.
Ah, there you go.
So almost half of his yards are going to J-Mo now in play action. So only 2 other quarterback receiver duos have totaled more such yards this season, and that's C.J. Stroud and Nico Collins, 244. And our new arch rival in the NFC North, Sam Darnold and Justin Jefferson, 210. For the matchup, the Cowboys defense has allowed the 3rd lowest completion percentage on play action passes this season. So that's not good. So our strength is now going up against their strength. How do we beat them? Run the ball. Run the ball. Run the ball. Get them uncomfortable, right? Tire them out. With Micah Parsons out, with Lawrence out, with Deron Bland, hampered, this is lining up for the Lions to be able to attack them at their weakness, right? And get these guys fatigued by running the ball straight at them. And then you can go back to play action or go up top in shotgun and start getting the ball, around the field to your receivers. Tim Patrick is going to have a big game. I believe that he's going to have a big game this weekend. And big for him is plus 50 yards. Jared Goff has 50 play action dropbacks this season. 40 of them have come when he's aligned under center. So there's another stat, there's another figure that tells you that more of our play action passes are coming underneath center. He's rolling back, he's faking the handoff, pulling it in, going up top, or dinking it underneath. So that means only 10 of 50 plays, 20% of plays are coming when he's in shotgun. Now, under center play action dropbacks have accounted for 29.6% of Goff's total dropbacks, the highest rate in the NFL. Goff has completed 31 of 38 such passes for a league-leading 501 yards and a touchdown, 102 yards more than any other quarterback in the league. On 10 play action dropbacks when not under center, Goff has completed 4 of 8 passes for just 37 yards. And an interception. And he's scrambled once and been sacked once. So what that tells me is shotgun is not working for us in play action. Got to stay away from it. What you got, Eric?
I hate shotgun. I wish he was just under center every single play.
Yeah, it's kind of needed, though, especially if you're going up against a defense that's going to be able to get after you. And I'm not so sure that it's going to happen. I'm not so sure that Dallas is going to be able to get after us this weekend.
Yep. I would like to see him under center 99% of the time this week.
We'll see what happens. I would say right now that's probably not going to happen, but
yeah.
Yeah, I got to pull something up here. Okay, so question, has Kendricks been ruled out? I thought I covered that in the beginning. Did I mention Kendricks?
Yep.
So he did not practice yesterday. And he's got that calf shoulder injury, so more than likely he's out, but we won't know anymore until Friday. Zach Martin, their guard, is on rest, so he should play. Nick Vigil, their inside linebacker, has a foot injury. He did not play or did not practice. Micah Parsons with the ankle injury, he did not practice. And then their safety, Marquise Bell, has illness. He did not practice. I would expect that he plays. This one's kind of weird to me. So Deron Bland, he was a full participant yesterday. Hold on here. Okay. He was a full participant yesterday coming off of IR. Kalen Carson, the backup in place of Deron Bland, he was also a full participant. Trayvon Diggs also had an ankle injury. He was a full participant. Tyler Guyton was a full participant, which he's expected to play too. Deron Bland is the only one that I feel, even if he plays, he's going to be, according to them, on a pitch count. He may not have an expanded role, which helps the Lions because he is their ball hawk. I mean, he attracts balls like a magnet. Back to Goff here. Jared Goff is targeted in breaking routes on a league high 41% of his passes this season, 5.1% higher than the next closest quarterback, which is Jordan Love at 36%. So again, if I'm a defense and I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, they're going to run play action a lot. And on play action, they're going to run in breaking routes a lot, which Tim Patrick had that huge 29-yard catch on an in breaking route. So what would you do? You got to stack the middle of the defense. You've got to play a zone scheme, which the Lions don't do as well inside zone on cover 3. So those are the things that we have to pay attention to. If the Cowboys are in cover 3, running an inside zone on Jared Goff, it's going to be very difficult for him to get the ball off to where he likes to throw it. He does not like to throw out breaking routes as often. those are the balls that I feel get picked more often. Just a guess. I'm speculating. I don't know the exact stat, but if I were to say that a certain pass from Jared Goff that seems to get picked off more often than not, it is more of the outside breaking routes, or it's been the inside seam route that, you know, we've had 2 instances of downfield contact that limited Sam Laporta and Jamison Williams last year and this year. So again, if I'm looking at this from a defensive perspective, I'm wondering to myself, all right, so if he's going to throw a lot of in-breaking routes, how do we stop it? And what are the Lions going to do to, you know, to take advantage of them trying to stop it? What would you do, Eric? Any idea?
Yeah, I would do everything I could to stop it.
Well, what I would do is I would do double moves. So I would have your better wide receivers, your faster wide receivers like Jamison, running double moves. So you run the inside. You can run an inside, you know, a double up, you know, sluggo, whatever. You want to do an inside break and then go up top, especially if they're in 3 deep shell or in 2 deep shell, and you've got space over top in between the safety and the corner. Jamo breaks in and then cuts it up, and you'll see Goff just fade that ball towards the sideline a little bit, or depending on where you are, towards the hash. Jamo's gone. So that's a play that I'm going to look for this weekend, is a double move up the seam where Jamo then runs a post pattern or a corner pattern and finds himself in the end zone. Jared Goff has recorded 113.2 passer rating on unpressured dropbacks since 2023, second in the NFL compared to a 64 passer rating when he is pressured. Pressure is a very loose term, in my opinion, and I think it's been overblown. I really do. I'm a firm believer that true pressure, right? True pressure on the quarterback, 2.5 seconds that you're forcing the quarterback to do something. That's true pressure to me. That does affect the quarterback, but pressure at 3 seconds, over 3 seconds, does nothing to a quarterback, depending on the style of pressure. But if you have 3 seconds to throw the ball in this league, that's all day. That's all day. I mean, you're opening up a bag of chips and dipping a chip in the dip and getting in your mouth before you got to get the ball off. So give him 3 seconds, he's going to have all day to get rid of the ball. You give him 2.5 seconds, hardly any quarterback is going to be successful. So my question on this, and I don't know where the stats went with this, I don't know if it rated the pressure correctly. Are these quick pressures? Because Next Gen Stats is calling any pressure now a quick pressure under 3 seconds. It's never been 3 seconds. It's always been 2.5 seconds. So that's the difference for me. I don't think that Jared Goff is that bad under pressure. I think that all quarterbacks have difficulty under quick pressure. Jared's just not as mobile, you know, so he's got to move within the pocket. He's got to sense the pressure a little bit earlier. But again, the Cowboys are missing one of their best pass rushers, Micah Parsons and Lawrence. So against the Cowboys defense, Jared Goff should probably attempt some deep passes in this game. Now, he has attempted a deep pass, which is 20 plus more air yards on just 5.6 of his total attempts this season, which is the 3rd lowest rate in the NFL. I find this kind of odd because last season and the seasons before that, Jared Goff was a top 5 quarterback for explosive plays and plays over 20 yards. Goff has attempted just 7 deep passes this season, 6 of which have been targeted to Jamison Williams. 2 completions, 102 yards, and a TD. Goff threw an interception on his only deep pass not targeted to Jamo, which was to Tim Patrick. It was a terrible pass. For the matchup against the Cowboys defense has allowed just 2 of 20 deep passes to be completed this season. 109 yards, a TD, and an interception, tied for the fewest such completions in the NFL with 5 other defenses. So whereas I want Jared Goff to be able to target a few deep bombs in this game, probably not going to happen. You're probably going to get mad at your TV when we're doing the old West Coast offense, dinking it and dunking it everywhere. As long as these guys are getting to the sticks, I don't care. complete it. Have a high level completion game. As long as you're getting to the sticks, that's the only thing I care about, because when you're running short of the sticks, that's when this offense gets in trouble. We've got to run the ball. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. Lastly, here on Jared Goff. Oh, where did it go? Wanted to look at something against the Seahawks here. So against the Seahawks, Jared Goff threw in-breaking routes 43% of the time. Crazy number. Highest in the NFL. And he had a lot of success. All right, so where's Jared Goff as far as advanced metrics? Let's talk about time to throw. So Jared Goff on average has had about here, let me add it up real quick. Against the Seahawks, he had 3 seconds. So like I was just saying, he needs, anyone that's got 3 seconds, that's all day in a bag of chips, right? What were you going to say, Eric?
The Seahawks game, to me, was one of the better showings for our offensive line all year.
It was. So Jared Goff is averaging 2.84 seconds of time to throw. 2.84 seconds. Maybe that's why they've changed this stat to 3 instead of 2.5. But if you're giving a quarterback anything more than, 2.75 seconds to throw, they're going to complete it, or at least they're going to have a higher, opportunity to complete it. His QB percentage, so his pressure rate is averaging. So we got 33.3 against the Seahawks, 23.1 against the Cardinals, 31.6 against the Bucks, and 35.5 against the Rams. He's averaging 30.89% pressure rate. So he's pressured 30.89% of all dropbacks. He's been blitzed. Wow, he was blitzed quite a bit against the Seahawks. See, this is what I don't understand. They say that Jared Goff is one of the worst passers of the football when he's under pressure, right? That's what they're trying to say. He was blitzed 42.99% against the Seahawks. That's huge. Versus the Rams, 12.9%. And I would say the Rams got after us way more than anybody else.
Yeah.
So he's averaging about 34-35% blitz rate. Because, there's a huge variance here. You got 12.9, 26.3, 34.6, and 42.9. He's been blitzed more and more every game. Play action percentage. The Lions ran 61.9% of play action passes versus the Seahawks. That's crazy. Average separation. So target separation, where are receivers at the time that they're getting the ball delivered? We're averaging roughly 4.1 yards of separation right now. That's incredible. Tight window percentage. The tight window percentage against the Seahawks was 5.6%. So when I do this all over again, which I was thinking about doing it tonight, but I might not. I think tonight we're going to do some tape review of the Dallas Cowboys. And I might put some other stuff together to talk about, but I'm going to do another live tonight. We're going to review some tape. Hopefully it doesn't get taken down. It shouldn't, because the all 22 should be okay. I'm curious to look at the Seahawks game and what style of defense that they were playing. I'm curious to know what style of defense all of the teams that we faced this year have been playing, and why Jared Goff is having more success. Like versus the Seahawks, he only threw the ball 5.6% of the time in a tight window, and it was his best game. So clearly we're getting great separation, 4.4 yards of separation. That's what we're going to need to see, this weekend against the Cowboys. So for his career, Jared Goff in his career, this is what I want people to understand about old JG. He's averaged 2.75 seconds time to throw. And you're going to tell me that he can't throw under pressure? 2.75 seconds. Let's go back to 2019. 2018, 2.95. 2019, 2.8. 2020, 2.76. 2021, 2.77. 2.75 in 22. 2.72 in 23. And 2.8 in 24. What is crazy to me is with the number 1 or number 2 offensive line in the league, he's had less time to throw. That's what doesn't make any sense to me. Completion percentage. Jared Goff is tossing 71% completion percentage right now, which by his averages is about 4% higher, 4.5% higher than he's ever had. Yards per attempt. You'd have to go all the way back to 2018 to show me a better season for him. He's almost a half a yard more, or a little bit more than a half a yard on his yards per attempt right now. So I think that the overall matchup obviously is going to benefit Jared Goff this weekend. I've thrown a lot of stats at you this morning. Eric, give me your takeaway here on all this stuff.
All right. So against the Bucks, Jared Goff was asked to throw the ball over 50 times. Just didn't work. All we needed to do was run the ball a little bit more, and I think we win that game. We kind of learned our lesson against the Cardinals. That was the next game. Ran the ball much more, asked Jared Goff to do a lot less, and he went from 61% completion to 78% completion. And then in this last game, we asked him to do even less. We ran the ball even more. He only threw the ball 18 times and was perfect at 100% completion percentage. So I'm going to say, let's keep Goff under 25 throws and run the ball the rest of the time, and we are good to go.
I like 25. I think that's a good number, especially if we're having some success in the run game. Here's my key stat number 1. The Cowboys are allowing 4+ yards per carry and 100+ yards per game over the last 15 games on the ground. So actual stats, Dallas Cowboys run defense, the last 15 games is 123.8 rush yards per game. They've allowed 1,857 rush yards over the last 15 games. They've allowed 18 rushing touchdowns and 4.35 yards per carry. There's an argument to be made here that over the last 2 weeks, the Cowboys have seen some improvement, with the defense only allowing 59 rush yards per game and 2.4 yards per carry. That's alarming to me. Why are they all of a sudden having more success? Well, I would say go look at the teams that they played. So I tend to believe that that's more of an indictment on the opponent, right? They went up against Devin Singletary in week 4, Najee Harris in week 5. So especially with this larger sample size that we see over the last 15 weeks of games that they've played, it kind of shows a long-term average and how this depleted defense with recent injuries is going to allow the Lions to have a little bit more success. Now, the advanced stats this season, especially with the context of the Lions versus Cowboys matchup, look even worse for Dallas. Entering week 6, the Lions rank 3rd in ESPN run block win rate at 74%, while the Cowboys are 30th in run stop win rate at 29%. This is about as lopsided as it's going to get in a game. And Dallas is allowing the 4th highest rush success rate, 46.2%, as the Lions boast the 2nd highest rush success rate at 50.8%. This is why I said Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery should feast, absolutely feast on the Cowboys to the tune of 160 yards and 3 touchdowns in this matchup versus the Cowboys. That's where I'm expecting the Lions to win, which is up front. Anything for you on that key number 1?
Nope, that's it. I mean, I'd love to see us run. And I think that we have to play a game very similar to what we did last week against Seattle. And no issue. I think that should be the game plan for the rest of the year, is play a very similar run to pass ratio of what we did against Seattle.
So Bobu thinks that the Cowboys are going to try a lot of blitz to slow the run as much to get to Goff. So I think it's a double-edged sword, Bo. I think if you blitz, that helps the run, because if they're going all out, hitting their lanes, all you have to do is pick the lane that no one's running through. And so if you do a little bit of a delay counter or any sort of a delay, especially if you're in shotgun, you're going to have more opportunity than not, or the pitch out. I mean, we don't see it often, but sometimes they do a little bit of a pitch out. My key number 2 in this game is 4.33. What does that mean? CeeDee Lamb's yards per route run versus man coverage. Heading into Sunday's matchup, CeeDee Lamb ranks 9th in receiving yards, 15th in receptions, and 23rd in receiving touchdowns. It's been a slow start to the 2024 season for CeeDee Lamb. However, week 6 against the Lions could provide a path to a bounce-back game against the Lions' 27th ranked passing defense, giving up an average of 258.3 yards per game. Now, according to Pro Football Focus, Lamb averages the 2nd highest yards per route run, 4.33, just behind Justin Jefferson. He's also pulled in the 7th most targets with 9 versus man coverage, with the 5th highest yards per reception at 26. All of this matters because the Lions are desperately trying to run man coverage. Among all qualified NFL quarterbacks, per PFF, Carlton Davis has ran 79 snaps in man coverage, 4th most in the NFL. Tyrion Arnold, 74 in man, for the 7th most in the NFL. And Amik Robertson, 55 snaps in man, good for 21st in the NFL. All play that coverage scheme heavily. Dallas doesn't have a lot of advantages in this matchup, but this is one that I believe they could exploit, especially given the fact that the Lions have been so ticky-tacky with their hands, getting called for penalties. Running man coverage against CeeDee Lamb is just not going to work out. But they're going to have to do it. They're going to have to bracket him down and put somebody over top to make sure that CeeDee Lamb is getting somewhat double-teamed. But if you're going to run man on CeeDee, what I was complaining about all last season, especially in this game versus the Cowboys, is we did not get our hands on CeeDee Lamb at the line of scrimmage. If you want to allow your defensive line an opportunity to get to Dak, you can simply do it by jamming CeeDee Lamb off the line, and then you bracket somebody over top of him should he burn the jammer. You could almost put, Amik Robertson down there with Carlton Davis. Amik jams, Carlton trails, right? Amik jams, Carlton takes, the opportunity on CeeDee Lamb for that possession. That's what I would love to see. Double them up like that, especially if they're in personnel that only has 1 or 2 wide receivers in. Key number 3, before I get to that, anything on you for that?
I'm going to have to get going.
Yeah. All right. We'll see you later, buddy.
Today. So I will see all you guys next week. My Lions prediction is 27-20.
All right. I think we can definitely win. I think we can definitely win by 7.
Yep. Last second touchdown. We're going to get it.
All right, man. We'll catch you later.
All right. See ya.
See ya. Key number 3, pressured allowed this season by the Dallas Cowboys offensive tackles. Once a strength of this team, the Cowboys offensive line is taking a massive step backward in 2024. Now, while the interior is holding up fairly well, rookie left tackle Tyler Guyton and veteran right tackle Terrence Steele have had a massive issue in pass protection. Needless to say, that is a problem against Detroit. It is also another favorable matchup for Aiden Hutchinson to take advantage of. Aiden has played roughly 70% of his snaps lined up against the right tackle in the last 2 weeks. He enters Sunday leading the NFL in sacks with 6.5, and even coming off of the bye, he's still in front. He also leads all edge rushers in ESPN pass rush win rate with 34%. Steele, who Hutchinson will primarily line up against should he not flip-flop sides, has allowed the 7th most pressures, 14, among starting offensive tackles, and the 8th most sacks with 3. Now, Guyton, on the other hand, who's coming off a knee injury, who is questionable at that, has allowed the 2nd most sacks with 4 on the year. Now, Dallas will need to throw a little extra help, or all the help it can, towards Guyton or Steele to keep Prescott upright. My prediction for Aiden Hutchinson in this Lions defense. The Lions defense is not going to need to contain Prescott as much as they did Kyler Murray. I expect to see some level of blitz packages early to get Dak rattled, but I don't believe that pressing through the blitz is going to be the final answer here. I think that the pressure is going to come up the middle, and Aiden and Pascal are going to be able to push the tackles back and away from the DTs. DJ Reader, 1 sack. Josh Pascal, 1 sack. Aiden, 0 sacks. Anzalone, 1 sack. I'm just kidding. Aiden's going to get a sack in this game. So I'm calling 4. I'm calling 4 sacks in this game, and I think that DJ Reader, Josh Pascal, Aiden Hutchinson, and Alex Anzalone all come down as winners against the Dallas Cowboys. It's a lot of sacks. It is not often you have more than 2 sacks in a game, let alone 4. But I think that if AG is going to do us a service this weekend against Dallas, not only is he going to want to embarrass them, he's going to want to embarrass them at home. He's going to want to get after Dak Prescott, because once you make him rattled, he does not come out of it. He starts to make more mistakes after more mistakes after more mistakes. To win this game, the Lions are definitely going to have to win the turnover ratio. They're going to have to pound the ball, like I predicted, 160 yards on the ground. But the turnover ratio is going to have to help this team have more opportunities to score. It is never easy to play in Jerry World. It is never easy against these refs in the NFL. And every time we are down there, there is always some sort of conspiracy. I hope we don't have it this weekend. But I do hope that Amik Robertson ends up with an interception. I do hope that Terrion Arnold at least gets his hands on the ball instead of on the receiver. We'll see what happens. But that's my predictions for this week. Today was a stat-driven episode of Rise and Grind Morning Show. Hopefully we've given you enough information to kind of think about what the Lions need to do this weekend and where the stats kind of line up between the teams. And does that affect the way that Dan Campbell and AG and Ben Johnson call their plays? I don't know. I would assume that it does. I would assume that they look at the weaknesses, but at the same time, they're more driven by the tape. And how can you beat these guys based on what they're doing, right or wrong? How can you take advantage of the things that they don't do well? The stats will lead you into a direction, and the tape will solidify your plan, because at the end of the day, it's the tape that you're going up against. It's the real player, not some stat on a piece of paper. It's the real player. What do they do right? What do they do wrong? How can we take advantage of it? Appreciate the call out there, Wayne. Appreciate it. So that's really it for today. I'll be back tonight. I'm going to get something scheduled, assuming everything goes well today. I'm going to try to get something scheduled tonight to do a tape review of the Dallas Cowboys last game, and we might mix in a little bit of the Lions to kind of see what they were doing well. So look for it to pop up in your notifications. Otherwise, just go to the channel and look for what's coming up next in the live section. Otherwise, flip your notifications on, please, because that way you'll get notified up to 3 times per day. That's the most amount of times you're going to get notified by this channel. And that's what YouTube only allows, is 3 notifications per day. So it's not a ton. Any other questions before we head out today? Wayne Rogers says, love the numbers. Great show. Good day. God bless everybody. I'll finish with this, man. Florida got pounded again last night. Up the coast, a lot of people are in trouble. There's a lot of flooding going on. If you have an opportunity to help, please do. I would love to do nothing more than to jump in my truck and head down to Florida and help. But right now, we would be making matters worse. Try to do your part. Help others is what we do on this channel. That is why we support the Rock Down Cancer Foundation. Some of the raffles are going to be ending soon. So if you're interested in getting any of the Lions merchandise, signed memorabilia, jerseys, jackets, helmets, you name it, check it out on buymeacoffee.com/rockdon. You can always hit the QR codes that pop up, or you can visit the description where there's links available. If the one link isn't working for whatever reason, just go to the next. All you got to do is get to the page and you'll be able to see everything in the shop. But do your part for the Floridians and anybody else that are affected. We got a lot of Michiganders down there that live in Florida during the wintertime. But let's do our part to help them out the best we can. I'm not so sure that we can directly help them, through our foundational efforts. But we'll certainly do our best to leverage our support as best we can with the damage down. It's bad. It's really bad. Good news, my kids are safe. They're down in Naples. But man, these multiple hurricanes over the past couple of years has really, really wiped out Florida in a hurry. So, and then my mom is in North Carolina on the west side, and they've lost just about everything too up there. It's bad. It's really bad. So hug your loved ones, and let's do our part to help people moving forward. You guys have a great day. Go Lions, go One Pride. We'll see you in the next one.
In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rock on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. In the city, where the road meets the night, the Lions charge, ready for the fight. Noble hearts and steadfast pride. Detroit spirit, we wear it white. Feel the drive, hear the crowds embrace. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. Rocked on, Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. With every game, we rise and unite. Feeling the passion igniting the light. Through highs and lows, we'll stand as one. A legacy, a tale that's just begun. Together we roar. Together we roar. Detroit Lions will rise. With a heart full of dreams and the fire in our eyes. From the past to the future, we'll claim our own. In the home of the brave, we'll proudly have grown. So let's lift our voices. Let's turn it up loud. For the love of the Lions, we'll always be proud.
Every day, thousands of people are discovering Uper Lights, Michigan's newest, funnest rock to go find on the shores of the Great Lakes. Don't go out with just any light. Try the Convoy C8 from uperlights.com. It's guaranteed for life, and you'll find all the ones everyone else misses. Quality UV lights that are perfect for Uper Lights, with prices starting as low as $20. Please make sure to visit uperlights.com for all your UV flashlight needs, with the best guarantees on the market. Just what you wanted and not what you didn't. The best quality, the best guarantees, and the best UV flashlights from uperlights.com.